Happy May 4th, which is Star Wars Day. So I thought I'd share a fan art I did for a Star Wars game that I am a part of. I won't be talking much about the making of the game since this is not a gaming channel. I will be sharing the process of this painting and maybe share a little bit about my relationship with video game and such. So grab a coffee or drink, get comfortable and enjoy, and may the force be with you. Okay, so this is painted from a screenshot that I took with the camera mode of the game. I mentioned this feature in modern video games in one of my previous video when I was painting a screenshot of a game called Plague Tale Requiem. Modern video games are looking really good because of the technological advancement of the computer graphic. So it's not unusual when I play a video game, I starting to look at the environment, the art, and sometimes I even get inspired wanting to paint those. And especially for video game that has a camera feature like this game, it's almost like you are there as a tourist of some sort and you can take a photo of the surrounding scenery. And some camera features are very advanced. It's almost like you can take a photo with a drone. So I believe good subject can be found everywhere. I don't do fan art often because it's somebody else's creation and usually I cannot really do anything with it other than just have fun painting it and share it and maybe give it out as a gift. But once in a while, something that really inspires me, I do like to paint them. Like this game that I am actually part of the development team, but I'm doing it as a fan, not part of the development team. And recently I also painted another fan art of an anime movie called Suzume. I watched that movie with my son and I had a great time watching it, so I also sort of paint that fan art as a memory of me spending time with my kid. And if you're interested, I'll be sharing the process of that one as well. So back to the painting, I actually spent quite a bit of time doing the line drawing because it is a huge scenery with a lot of details. I do have to move certain things around and I have to take out some of the details because in the video game, there are details everywhere because you're actually in an environment and you don't want to waste any space, so that player can have wonderful experience everywhere they go. So in terms of painting, I have to recompose the image a little bit, but the essence of the painting should still remain. Now I started pre-wetting the paper and do the sky, and I just paint the color of the light. And as you can see, the screenshot size and the paper is not exactly the same. The screenshot is a lot wider, so I also have to recompose it in a way that it fits in the paper. So this stage is really about just getting the color of the light in. And even though this step isn't really that hard if you just work fast enough and if you just have a little bit of courage to paint, but once you take that first step and put paint on the paper, you get over a lot of the mental hurdle you have towards the painting because now you're not looking at perfectly white paper anymore. Because when the paper is still white, you don't have to start. But once you start, you either continue or you just stop, but there's no going back. So once you start, you can keep the momentum going. So now I am painting sort of a light value as well because some of the color needs to be just a little bit stronger. This painting, I didn't do a value study. Now that I look back, I think I actually should because there are a lot of details in the screenshot. And once you starting to focus on one area, all the little subtle value changes starting to pop out. And if you're not careful, you can very easily get distracted by it. So now I'm painting the middle value of the painting and I have to force myself not to get into detail too much and just try to connect the big shape. if you kind of squint your eyes, you can still make out the overall value grouping. The right side to the middle made of the dark rock on the right and the shadow that is casted in the midground. And that connects to some of the buildings and the trees and even a little bit of the background. It's just a little bit complex, but our job is trying to simplify those. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to connect the shape. Now, because the painting is a little bit bigger than I usually paint and also a bit more complex, so the wash might dry up when you are trying to paint the middle value, and that makes it a little bit difficult to connect. And when that usually happen, I'll just wait for it to be a little bit drier so that I can just paint on top of it, or I will need to redo the whole session. Otherwise, if you try to lay down a wet wash on a sort of a damp surface, cauliflower may appear, and you don't necessarily want that. As long as the value is similar, you can connect the shape even if the wash is dry. So I continue to expand my middle value shape. I'd also put in the initial wash for the character. It looks very rough right now. This is usually the stage that is a little bit difficult because the painting is not really looking that exciting and it's very easy wanting to give up. So it's very important to have a vision of your painting. So when you're feeling a little bit stuck or the painting is not really looking exciting just yet, that vision will keep you going because you know that there's still potential in this painting that you're working on. And value study is actually a very good way to get that vision out of your head and making it real, which again, I didn't do it. So you might not able to tell because this is fast forward, but I actually struggled quite a bit mentally when I was painting this. So I had to fall back on my painting experience. So needless to say, the more experience you have, the more confident you will be. And my experience is kind of somewhere in the middle, so I am half confident sometime when I paint. Anyways, I'm continuing to expand the middle value of my painting. Easier to said than done because the amount of detail in the lighting is very complex, so a good old squint will always help. But it's still a little bit difficult, especially when you are focusing on a specific spot. Our human tendency is really trying to identify everything we see, and without conscious decision, we will try to replicate exactly what we see. And if you are a hyper-realistic painter, that's not a problem, but if I want to paint loose, I will really have to process the image in my brain. So expanding the middle value shape onto the buildings. And because this is a video game, and the player is actually able to traverse to this world, so everything that you see are highly detailed because the player can actually go there and the environment needs to hold up. And the environment is actually a lot smaller than the real world because if this is a real world scale, the player is gonna walk all day long just to reach one point to another. So the environment is a lot more condensed. So it's reasonable to see that amount of details in a big shot like this. But again, if I want to translate that into a painting, I have to approach this painting as a real world scenery by establishing the depth and trying to simplify the whole scenery. And now I'm working on the rooftop of the building. I really love the rusty texture of the rooftop. So I try to replicate that in watercolor, which is just wet onto wet. And when you do that, you want to make sure you have thick enough mixture so that it's not going to get washed out. So the second wash is pretty much done. I did apply a little bit of masking fluid when I get started on the back of the main character is the BD1, the droid, and also the lightsaber, which should be really, really bright. So I peeled off the masking fluid, and now I'm starting to paint the dark value of the painting. And this is the part that you start to see the painting taking shape, because there will be enough contrast to suggest lighting and the three-dimensional shape and form. So the key to this is to paint the dark so that the layering of the rock can be suggested. And I'm working on the ship. This is Stinger Mantis, the main spaceship in the game. And it's amazing how optical illusion works. Just by adding some simple dark, you start to see the lighting, and the lighting will give you the sense of three-dimensional form. I did change the lighting just a little bit though, so that the nose of the ship will show up in the light. So it's not completely covered in the shadow. I like the sail part of the ship, that it receives a little bit of the light. So I want to do the same for the nose of the ship. So taking a little bit of creative license to change the reference. I do that when I'm painting the photo. I will do the same when I'm painting a screenshot of the game. Here I'm facing another challenge, is what to connect and what to separate. Because if you squint your eyes, a lot of things merge together. But I also want to give enough individual details so that people can identify what they're looking at. So it's a very tricky balancing act. You want to interpret just enough so that people know what they're looking at, but you also don't want to paint too much that the painting start to look overworked. So now I'm painting the dark on the buildings, the dark underneath the roof, the cast shadows. These are all important darks that will make the building solid and make the lighting visible. The light is already there because in watercolor you paint from light to dark. So what you do is to take away some light so the area that needs to be light can be shown because of the contrast. And here I'm painting some animals. They are Star Wars animals. These are called Nekos. I just painted a little bit of those to suggest some life. And now I'm starting to working on some more details. When you are adding darks, you are also adding details for the most part. So be really careful not to overwork those. Give it just enough so that it looks sophisticated but not too busy. Don't forget the overall relationship of the value in your painting. You don't want to all of a sudden start to break your major shape. So I realized that the right side of the painting is not dark enough, even though I try to make that mostly the middle value. The paint dries and it becomes lighter. So I need to make some part of it a little bit darker by glaze over them. And here the blue lightsaber, I try to add some blue right next to the highlight and paint some dark on the character so it also looks three-dimensional. And at this stage, again, very hard not to compare my own painting with the screenshot. And it is kind of like comparing your painting to the real world. It's very difficult to do that because my painting usually lost. And it makes sense. The scenery that I took the screenshot from is made with a lot of people. It's a huge team effort, but my painting is just painted by me. So visually, it's just not going to look as good. But I'm still having a lot of fun painting it. And I do think there are some part of the painting that I really enjoy and I really like. And at the end of the day, if your painting can stand alone as its own artwork, I think you have a successful painting. And if you have fun painting it and if you feel happy about it, that's the most important thing. So I always loved playing video games since I was little, to much of my parents' dismay. So during my middle school and high school years, I decided I want to work on video game when I grow up. I didn't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I want to be in the industry. And art was probably the only thing I was decent at when I was in my teenage years. So that inevitably led me to the career path as a video game artist. And it was a long path. I had to learn a lot just to be in this industry, and I am still learning today every single day working with a lot of talented people. And I feel grateful and lucky to work on a video game, and Star Wars is always something that I really love since I was a kid. So there's definitely a lot of pinch myself moment to remind myself this is real, this isn't a dream. So again, I often feel very fortunate to be doing this as my job. So I added some more dark and I painted some more detail, and I feel the sky is a little bit weak. So I re-wet the sky surface and add some more blue. This is not an easy painting by any means. I worked on this painting for almost 3 hours, which doesn't sound a lot of time, but most of my painting I finish it within like an hour and a half. So this is really pushing my limit. I hope you enjoyed this painting and this demo. Don't go away yet though, I have an important announcement to make. So stay with me just a little bit longer. I hope you enjoyed that painting and demo. Now here's some announcements that I want to make. My signature brush is going to be restocked tomorrow, May 5th. So if you haven't got yours in the first batch, or if you want more, you can place your order tomorrow. It's going to be limited as well, so once it's gone, it's going to run out. Last batch is about a year ago, and it's completely sold out in about a month or two. So if you want a set, be sure to place your order tomorrow. I'll put the link down below so you can check them out. Also, I'll be hosting an in-person workshop at Bend, Oregon in May 26th to May 29th. It's been a while since I teach in person, so I am super excited. Thanks to the wonderful folks in Sagebrushers in Bend, Oregon to make this workshop happen. There are going to be 2 sessions in this workshop. Each session will be 2 days. The first section will be focusing more on the beginner's level, and the second workshop I will be starting to teach a little bit more advanced and intermediate level stuff. You can definitely sign up both if you want to. I heard Bend, Oregon is very beautiful. I never been there myself, so another reason that why I'm super excited. So again, I will put the link down below so you can check it out for more detail and to sign up. That's it for today's video. Thank you again for your wonderful support. And again, happy May 4th. May the Force be with you.